Long time no see. So, the past week, I've been busy with vacation, busy with work, and I'll be honest, there wasn't a lot that dropped that really gravitated towards my attention. But this week, we do have a few things to talk about, and I want to start off with Days Before Rodeo has finally hit streaming, and it released all the way back in August 18th of 2014. Now, to give some context before I talk about this mixtape, around 2014, I was just starting to dive into the rap genre. I grew up in a very Christian household. If there was any form of rap with cursing or even just music that wasn't Christian in general, either I would get talked to or I would get in trouble. So around this time, I was starting to get into rap and other genres in secret. So around 2014, I had Mac Miller, I had Tyler the Creator, I had Earl Sweatshirt, and I listened to a little bit of J. Cole. That was my introductory pieces into rap. And Travis Scott didn't really get onto my radar until Rodeo, of course. But around this time, it was a critic score of a 64 and a user score of a 75. Now, take this as a person that didn't get onto the hype train of Travis until Rodeo. But I think, for my personal opinion, that the original version, we're going to get to the reissue in a second, but the original version, while decent, is a little bit of a mess. Now, obviously, you had Al Farrell before, back in, I believe it was 2012 or 2013. That was really, really rough, really dodgy, but it had moments. But I think Days Before Rodeo was definitely a major improvement upon Owl Pharaoh, and you got the really amazing glimpses and moments that Travis really showcased on later projects onto this mixtape. This mixtape is crucial. It's important to Travis Scott to where he is now. And when you look at songs like Mamacita, when you look at songs like the intro, The Prayer, probably one of his best intros ever, especially when it comes to the rapping performances. When you have these amazing slow burn tracks like Skyfall with Young Thug, when you have these incredible, just rebellious and downright goofy bangers like Sloppy Toppy. There's so many great songs on here, and I remember, I think maybe it was about a year ago, that I did a Travis Scott song ranking, and some songs I put like in C's and some D tiers. And I will say the track that's grown on me the most is Drugs You Should Try It. In the context of the mixtape, it is such a nice kind of just mellow and kind of wavy experience. And I do really like kind of the muffled and kind of just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a little bit more kind of put into the background of Travis Scott's vocals to play more of an instrumental kind of process to the song. I think it works out really well. Now, there's some parts of this mixtape, however, that I do feel still aren't great, and I think they've aged not not the greatest either. Back, the bonus track, is honestly a nothing of a song. Honestly, if that was a bonus, I could live without the bonus. Zombies, actually, if when I was listening to Zombies in the context of kind of just with everything I've been listening to, that the Zombies beat would actually work out so well as like an Opium, Ken Carson, Playboy Cardi kind of instrumental. I don't know why it works out that well. But a lot of these songs on Days Before Rodeo have these like interesting ideas, but I don't think Travis was at that point or caliber in his kind of artistry to make it fully flesh out or make it kind of cohesively run through one section to the next. And also, not to mention, these songs can be 4+ minutes long and they can really drag out sometimes. Zombies, I remember giving it a D tier, and I still think it's around a D tier for me. It's one of my least favorite Travis songs because it is just all over the place when it comes to performances. The rapping is okay, but then it just keeps jumping around place to place with no cohesive structure for me. Backyard is it's okay. I just think the latter half of this project just doesn't really do much for me, and I think it's a lot more of a top heavy record. Gray is a decent outro, however, but now we jump into the reissue. So before I get into the reissue, this is gonna be such a hot take, and I'm glad I came back after a week to give this take. For Days Before Rodeo, the original version, it's a 6. It is a decent record, really top heavy, however. And once you get to the middle to the latter portions of the original version, I find that it starts to get a little bit lost and sometimes even gets a little bit more generic. And what I expect from Travis is so much more than that. So to look back at this mixtape in the latter portion of the mixtape, I do feel like it kind of plays it a little bit safe. Now, with the reissue, however, these songs are amazing, and I have no idea why they were not put onto the Days Before Rodeo. Most City Flexologist is an incredible, incredible banger that could have worked out so well in the middle portion of this record, around that sloppy toppy kind of portion of the record. Travis just going off, and it sounds like in the second verse of Most City Flexologist, it really sounds like 2024 Travis. Like, if these bits and pieces were left off to the side, it honestly feels like these songs are created after Days Before Rodeo was released into going into Rodeo. These songs feel so much more dynamic. The vocal performances are fantastic, and the beats are actually really interesting. I know Yeah Yeah has been out for a while, but it's been the first time I've listened to it in full first couple of times. Young Thug brings an incredible, energetic performance that he would only get from him in like 2014. And Travis and Young Thug, just even early on, just shows incredible chemistry. Serenade is probably one of my favorite kind of vocal cuts now on this entire issue. And I think it reminds me a lot of just the vocal catchiness of the choruses of I Know off of Utopia. It just sounds so nice, and the beat is really cool, and I really enjoy it. The one song I actually really like the most on here, though, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's the outro track. And it was almost like when Rodeo released. You had Apple Pie, which is still a pretty great outro, but then you add Never Catch Me as the outro, and Never Catch Me in context is an S tier song in my opinion, one of Travis's best songs ever, and one of the best outros I've ever heard on a rap project. And this song kind of gives me that kind of feel, where you get this kind of very interesting and unfiltered vocal performance that sounds a little bit rough, but it adds to this feeling of this album just closing out of an experience, of a thrill ride that you got through the mixtape. And all of these songs together really do bolster the experience of Days Before Rodeo. And honestly, now I remember I was before I was doing this video, I read something that someone said. It's just like, now that this reissue exists, this is the definitive version of Days Before Rodeo. And I can honestly agree. Now that I'm going to, of course, I have the original version on streaming, which is fantastic. I love the ease of use for that. But honestly, I'm going to be going back to these bonus tracks so much more, and it really increases the replay value of this project. Now, the reissue rating with that, still problems, obviously. You still get the problems now that are more, I can't speak, now that are more in the middle portion of this record now. But the way that this project ends really does show these steps that Travis was taking to the masterpiece, in my opinion, that was Rodeo. So that's all of Days Before Rodeo. Not to mention, too, I looked at the reissue, and I looked at critic score 90 and a user score 80, and I was just like, there is no way we went from 64 to 75 to 90 to 80. But now that I have heard the deluxe edition, and now that I have heard four of these songs, I can totally say this is all warranted. If this was like a little EP, this is like a 9 out of 10. The only problem I had is like one of the songs, I think it was Too Many Chances, was too short. It's too good, it's too short. But overall, that's how I'm feeling on both of these records, both 10 years later and their updated version. So, what do you think about Days Before Rodeo? Are you streaming it a ton? I know I have. And leave your comments down below of what your favorite track on the deluxe is. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to record the Sabrina Carpenter review, which is vastly different from what I'm talking now. So, have a good night.